Hey guys, welcome to the Gut Girls podcast. We are here to help you uncover the root causes of your health struggles, break down the science of gut health, and give you real life tools to support your healing. We believe your gut is the foundation of your energy, your mood, your hormones, and your overall vitality. So each week we'll bring you education, encouragement, and strategies you can put into action so you can feel seen, supported, and empowered on your journey. I'm Angela.
And I'm Diana, and together we are the Gut Girls.
So today we're answering a question we hear a lot, which is, what is the gut? And so we're going to explore it in a new way through the lens of the nervous system and the body's natural healing abilities. So think of your body as like a bustling city. The nervous system is the traffic control center. It's managing all roads and spotlights, and the gut is the main highway. So if the highway is flowing, the city functions efficiently, right? But if it's congested, the whole city slows down.
Okay, so that makes sense, but I would love for you to explain a little bit more about these nervous system states and put it in our terms so our listeners can understand.
Yeah, so there's so much to the nervous system, and there's so many theories I think that you can kind of, research, look at, but I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. So you've got the sympathetic nervous system. I call that your fight or flight, which is like running from a bear, right? I always like to go back to like what our ancestors did, when they were on Earth, where they were trying to just survive from anything that was going to get them, right? So that's our fight or flight. And then there's the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state. So if we're talking about the city, think of the traffic flows very smoothly, right? The body repairs itself. Digestion happens. Restoration happens. If we back up to that sympathetic, think of like this traffic's moving very slowly, right? Like there's a little bit of maybe a bump in the road, a traffic accident, something like that. But then I think the other part that people haven't heard about often is the dorsal vagal. So that's a part of your nervous system that we know is like freeze, like shut down and freeze. And so I would think of this as like some kind of like citywide blackout. Okay, like that might be a good way to put it, where everything just freezes. Think of repair crews stop. No one can do their job. This is a complete freeze state. So that's in a range, the nervous system. And I will say this, you don't just stay in one, right? You're not just always in one. Your body optimally should kind of have this range of where it can flow in between all of these. Okay. And then kind of where we see things hit a wall is if you do hard, into all of one of these pathways of the nervous system. Does that make sense?
It does. And, I want to take it a step further because even as you're speaking, and I'm obviously one of the gut girls, I'm like, a lot of times people, when we talk about the nervous system, they're like, what? Like, you're a gut girl. And I did that in air quotes. But aren't you just interested in my poop? So they don't go that step further. So tell us a little bit more, go even a little bit deeper about how does this nervous system and your metaphor of the city and how does that fit into the gut? How does the gut fit into the nervous system? How do they work synergistically?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So if we're talking about the nervous system as like this main highway, right? Like if I'm using the city because I feel like it just makes sense. It's like the main highway of this whole, like think of a city. The gut is that main highway, right? So if I'm talking about what is the nervous system in this metaphor of the city, it's the main highway. It is the area, it is the part, I should say, of the body that needs to be cleared for everything else to kind of fall into place. So like people, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of different theories about like, how do you get this body to heal itself, right? Do we go down the mental health pathway? Do we go down the neurological health pathway? Do we go down the gut health pathway? We are the gut girls. So yes, we love the gut, but I will say this, it's all connected, right? It is all, that's the beauty that I think we're trying to get across is it's, even though this is what is the gut, right? It's everything is so interconnected. There's the gut brain axis, meaning that the gut, what happens in the gut actually connects to what you're thinking about in the brain and how well you're thinking, the ability to be positive, the ability to be clear, you know what I mean? The ability to focus in. But then the gut also goes out to other pathways. It goes out to other areas of well-being, to, let's say, the kidneys, right? Let's say the skin. It branches out. So it's the main highway, right? That's why I'm kind of going, when we're talking about the gut, it's the main highway on this nervous system. So if you don't understand what the nervous system is, it's kind of hard to then really answer how the gut is so interconnected to all these other pathways of the body and how we function as human beings.
Yeah, so, we've talked about it before. A lot of our clients come to us with symptoms of like brain fog and all these other things. And so we have to make that connection for them, right? Of just like you're talking about with that metaphor. But when it comes down to it, let's get down to the bare bones of it, right? Most of the time, people think of it being the stomach, the intestines, and that's what they say, my stomach hurts, right? That's the number one thing that people come to us, my stomach hurts. So tell us a little bit more about the stomach, the intestines, and how this nervous system kind of fits in. So what are people experiencing even maybe when they come to us and say, my stomach hurts?
Yeah. So the gut is, like you said, people think of it as just the stomach, but it's actually starting in the mouth. So it goes from the mouth to the anus. I mean, it is the funnel from opening to end, as we say. That is your entire gut, in all honesty. And then in between all that, there's the organs that are involved, like the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder. So those all make up, I shouldn't necessarily say just the gut itself, but the digestive tract, right? So that's really what we're talking about. When we're talking about the gut, we're talking about the digestive tract and all that's included in this. And then we take it, Diana, a step deeper. We talk about the microbiome. So that's where we'll do like the GI map testing, because it's the microbiome. And if some of you don't know what that is, those are the trillions of bacteria that live within this intestine, right? Or this, I shouldn't say intestine, but this digestive tract. And it's those bacteria, if we're going back to like this city picture that we're thinking of, they are the workers, right? They're the people, they're the guys that are maintaining the roads. They're the ones that's making sure traffic is flowing well. Like, without traffic control, the city would not function well, right? So the microbiome that you and I kind of dive deeper on is just that. We're looking at your traffic control system.
Yeah, and I mean, again, a step further with that would be what you're talking about is absorption of nutrients, elimination of waste, those kind of things. So when you're talking about controlling, that's what we mean. So there's a job for all of those things, right? To make it all come together, there's a job for everything. So when people try to pick out, one organ, the stomach or the intestines or, whatever, we're like, no, you have to do the whole entire thing. So it's the community that pulls together, right? Of the whole entire digestive tract. So, if you'll tell us a little bit more tell us some about the traffic that could go on with the congestion and everything that's going on with this city and this road that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I like to use this again. I'm using this metaphor because let's keep going, and I think everyone will understand. It makes so much sense. If we have all this like traffic control system in place, and let's say like the stoplights, they all collect data, right? Like every stoplight is basically a camera watching to see like how congested does this intersection get. If we were able to go in and basically, like even in the city that I live in Charlottesville, and see all that data, we would see where the routes are most congested. So then what do we have to do? Then we have to go to that route and maybe put a roundabout in, or like, make it flow better, right? So the GI map basically takes all the data, right? Like it's the data that then for you, Diana, would tell me like, where's your congestion? What intersection is really the biggest elephant in the room? If you did my GI map, where's my congestion happening, right? So that's like where the traffic is not flowing. And so then now you guys, if you're thinking about this traffic pattern, can understand how it's so unique for every person. It's not like you're doing the GI map and everyone gets the same interpretation, right, or education around it. It's like, no, you get to see the specific traffic issue based on your microbiome, your digestive tract versus mine. And I think that's what's so cool about it, is the uniqueness, right?
Yeah, so if we continue on with the metaphor that we're talking about with this road, because for you listeners, we had somebody actually kind of reach out to us and they're like, what is the gut? So that's we're trying to educate you a little bit and do. I love this metaphor that Angela is using to try to understand that a little bit. But let's get down to the root of it. People are looking for problem solving of their symptoms. I mean, again, they either come to us with stomach issues or like we talked about on past episodes where it's their skin issues, their brain fog, whatever. So they're looking for the answers. And you feel like with this GI map test, I mean, we've seen it happen hundreds and hundreds, possibly thousands of times at this point, where if you do look at that, you look at the congestion, you look at the traffic, like you said, you look at that map. So, I mean, you feel like that this can help look at those symptoms and those problem areas, right?
Absolutely. And let me break it down a step deeper. Okay. So if you're new to the concept of the gut, you're new to this metaphor of the traffic in the city and how it's flowing, let me explain that there are 3 patterns of congestion, if we want to keep going on this metaphor, that you and I see on the GI map. Okay. So follow me here, guys. There's, let's start with this inflammatory pattern. Okay. And I'm going to compare this in a city congestion. So if someone is inflamed, imagine being in a city and you're driving on the road and all you hear are these loud signals of the firemen coming, the ambulance coming, the policemen are coming, safety, everyone involved is coming and they're constantly coming. So could you then get to where you need to go? No, because you're constantly stopping, pulling over, letting them through. You also are kind of afraid of like, do I keep going? Like they're all heading this way. Like, is there something ahead? So that's inflammation, right? So if you've got the screaming joint pain, right? Now let's break this into symptoms. If you've got the screaming joint pain, this food sensitivity that like, I can't eat anything without feeling, I can't eat anything in general. It makes me feel awful. That's inflammation, right? Your body is on high alert. And so it is screaming at you. And that comes out with food sensitivities. That comes out with joint pain. Okay. But if we go back into the city and we decrease the inflammation, the noise alone of that, your nervous system starts to settle down. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know what my dog does when a fire truck goes by. And, that howling that a dog does, like your insides are doing that. They're screaming, right? So if we just calm the inflammation down, and the GI map reveals that, it's not going to be the same for you or the next person. But Diana, if you had an inflammatory pattern, we would know to educate you on how to bring the inflammation down. And then your nervous system's like, oh, this sounds so much better. And oh, I don't have to pull over constantly to let the firemen through, right? Now, if we go to another pattern, there's one called insufficiency dysbiosis, which is where a client can have very little good bacteria, okay? If that happens, I told you that the millions, trillions of bacteria in our body, they're the traffic control system. If we don't have them, what do you think happens to a city? There's no direction. There's no, there's just no capacity to flow efficiently. No one's guiding it. So it puts you at a higher risk than if a virus comes on. You're probably going to feel it right away. There's no traffic control. If you go under a very big period of stress, Diana, people heard this in your story with your mom passing away and trying to, get pregnant, have the babies. There's just, your nervous system, shuts down. And so when a stressor comes on like that, if you already don't have traffic control, which you didn't have a lot of it, you're at a higher risk for then getting the symptoms. And if they listen to your story again back in like episode, I think it was 2 and 3, your symptoms just flooded. You started having all the symptoms. So that is kind of a little bit of your story too. And then there's another pattern I'll tell you real quick, which is digestive dysbiosis. And guys, imagine there's this beautiful city that you want to go to, but like the gates are shut. Like you can't even get in. And that's digestive dysbiosis, meaning that there's stagnation literally on the highways of that city. So remember, the highway is your gut. there's no digestion happening in the oral cavity. Digestive dysbiosis is when you don't digest in the oral cavity, the esophagus, the stomach. So the very upper part of the digestive system, or the very entering into the city, the gates opening up, you can't even get into that city, right? The gates are closed. Digestion is not happening from the very top. So those are the patterns. And when we see that, like you asked me, do you really think that this helps educate people around their root? Yes, because you're going to fit into one of those patterns. And then it helps you identify, like, what do I need to start on inflammation? You can't do it all, right, Diana? That's where we see people fail, right? They go on an elimination diet, they do all the supplements, they're doing all the diets, and they fail. You can't do that. So this highlights for you, do we start with the inflammation? Do we bring it down? Do we build up your good bacteria, you know what I mean, to help traffic control per se? Do we just try to get the gates open, right? Like, where do we start with you, and every pattern's unique? Does that kind of help answer the question?
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's gut is different. And this GI map test, whether they're dealing with constipation, diarrhea, a lot of times you can even kind of look at the test and sort of predict, not that you do that, but in your mind, you're probably already going, this person is probably dealing with these symptoms. And so these patterns are real, but everybody's unique. So that's why we believe in doing the GI map test and using that as a tool along with the nervous system work and all the other things. And so I really want you to tell us a little bit more about, like, what are some practical things that we can take away from this episode? I want to know, like, if somebody thinks, okay, my city is congested, I have these, if they're headed along the side with us with this whole metaphor thing, because this is the best way that we thought that we could explain it. What do they do? What now?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. You and I, which we do in our programs, educate them on first and foremost journaling. Do we not? It's
so important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll let you actually just speak to how much this helped you in the beginning.
When I say that you can truly become your own doctor, you can, because you know exactly what happened when you take a specific supplement, when you eat food, if you don't sleep well at night, journal everything, every single thing. So if that's the one thing that you take away, I almost took over what the question that I asked for you, but if you take one thing away, it would be to journal, write it down. And that doesn't mean you have to do it for the rest of your life. I mean, even Angela and I talked the other day. I think I heard you do a story or something on our Instagram page, and you were like, I don't journal every single day anymore. But you still make a mental note of what happened. I even had a conversation with JC Kate this morning about this same thing, where we're making mental notes of what's going on with her face and, and how she feels and her energy level, because she's doing so many more activities. So journaling can be so important in this process.
I totally agree, which is why I handed it over to you. I know that this is a big part of your story. So even if you take it back to, like, that inflammatory pattern where I told you, like, the firemen are coming down the road, imagine what your body cannot focus. So, like, then you come and you talk to, like, us, and this is what we hear all the time. It does, even if I journal, the symptoms seem to be with everything I eat. So the journaling isn't helping. And what Diana and I kind of tell them is, you're actually not journaling specific enough, believe it or not. Like, you aren't journaling what your state of being is when you're eating. Are you stressed out? Did you just have a really bad conversation with a spouse, a friend, a roommate, whoever it is, and then you went and ate? Because that's going to set your nervous system in that state where all the firemen are, like, their whistles are on, and so then you put food in your body. Do you think you're going to digest it when you're hearing all this noise and inflammation? No. So you're probably not journaling about the state of your being when you're eating. You may not even be journaling about the timing. Like, what if your biggest experience with a food is right after, like, an intense workout? Okay, that's different than it, at a different time of the day, right? Or what if it's right after a meeting? Like, oh, my symptoms seem to get worse every day after this time, and actually that's when in my day is scheduled the meeting that I dread. Okay, well, then that tells us so much more than just the food. So the biggest thing people can take away is journaling. And we kind of walk them through that in our gut program, like prompts, right? The prompts to help you identify and educate you around what really is making that traffic not flow as well. And then if we want to take it a step deeper, Diana, I would say hydration. If the roads, if we keep going back, I'm just going to stick with this because we're on this topic of the traffic. If the roads are not built well, and I think of hydration, you're not going to go far if the roads aren't built well, right? And hydration is what keeps things flowing. I mean, the body is like 80% water. It's something like that. Don't quote me exactly, but I mean, it's a lot of water, right? So like if you're dehydrated, no matter what fancy car you're driving, it's not going to go down the road, right? So no matter how good your diet is, your sleep is, if you're dehydrated, things aren't going to flow as well. So I always think of journaling, I think of hydration, and I just think of respecting the nervous system, meaning like if you're gonna eat, guys, then I always believe that like there's a time of day for everything. There's a time to sleep, there's a time to eat, there's a time to work. That's what I think we've blended in today's world. Everything goes together. We work, we sleep, and we eat at the same time because it's more efficient. And I put that in air quotes because it's actually not. So I think being mindful of your nervous system, if it's time to eat, then you prep yourself for eating mindfully. You sit down, you give yourself time to eat, you chew your food, right? You're not texting and on the computer and eating, right? You're not listening to a podcast. Can I just tell you, and granted, we're doing a podcast, we'd love for you to listen, but don't listen while you're trying to eat because your mind is doing something different, right, than your digestive system is. Like there's two different signals going into your body. Take in this information, remember this, but yet put all your energy into digestion. That doesn't happen, right? So just focus on eating, and then it's like block timing, then switch back over to working, or then go, do whatever the next step is. I would say those are some of the basic things that we forget to do, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add one more. So if we journal, we talked about journaling, we talked about sitting up straight, not multitasking while we eat, chew really, really well. And then I would even add one more thing that could be one of the best things for digestion, and that's getting up and walking for about 10 minutes after a meal. So if you can kind of block out that time for you to eat, and I know we all have super busy lives, and I can promise you I do not do this super well every day, but I feel so much better when I do. When I sit down at the dinner table with my family, nobody has their phones, we sit up straight, we chew well, we eat slowly because we're not going to 75 other different activities and things. And then a lot of times Todd likes to clean up the kitchen right away, and I'm like, can we just like go for a 10-minute walk first? And so sometimes we'll even leave the dishes and go for our 10-minute walk and then come back and clean up the kitchen. It just helps with that digestion, right? So all of that is when we go back to kind of connecting the gut, the nervous system, this whole city, it all has to come together. So when our listeners are kind of asking, why are you the gut girls? What does this gut mean? And then if our clients are listening, they're going, okay, well, they talk about the nervous system, and maybe we don't have enough time to like tell you that much about the nervous system. That's why we're teaching you about it here too, to make sure that you're so aware of how important that is in healing the gut to try to optimize health in the end, right?
Absolutely. And then next episode, we're going to take a deep dive into a little bit more of that GI map and those patterns and those markers to kind of even pair some of the symptoms that people are feeling. And now that you've listened to this, you can really make the connection, I think, on the nervous system and how that test really kind of reveals your pattern and shows you the story, right?
Right. So if you're already journaling, you already feel like you're eating slowly, you're doing kind of all the things for digestion, you've tried different supplements, all those things, then maybe the piece of the puzzle that's missing is we get to the root of it looking at your GI map test, and you get your own personalized results so you can see what your city looks like and see where, maybe the fire truck's coming through or there's a gate up or whatever the case may be for you. You can do a GI map test. It is a comprehensive stool test. We are not medical doctors, but we can help coach you through how to optimize your health with nutrition, with supplementation, with nervous system work, and try to help put all of those pieces together. So if you are interested in that, the best way to get in touch with us is to go to our website, gutgirls.health, and you can just book a free 15-minute consultation, either Angela or myself. We'll make sure that we try to point you in the right direction and the best way to coach you at that point during that call.
The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.